Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. We have an extra amazing show. Krystal Ball is back from her honeymoon after a beautiful wedding. It's great to see you, Krystal.
It is nice to be back. I enjoyed the time off, but it's always good to be back in the chair. So indeed, we do have a good show. I had to work that in.
Yes,
otherwise, people would be very disappointed in me. First show back. So lots of things going on to catch up on. First of all, Ron DeSantis looks set to launch any moment, and he kind of got a little one-up on Trump in Iowa. So we'll tell you about that. First good news cycle for him for a while, I would say.
That's true.
So we'll break that down. Also, Elon deciding to allow censorship of some content in Turkey ahead of a critical election. We also have some results from that election, so we'll tell you about that. New reporting, mainstream media a little bit late to the game, but adding on to what Saagar and I had already previously reported from those leaked documents about how far Zelensky is willing to go and the sort of audacious attacks that he wanted to engage in, but was short the long-range missiles that we had failed to provide them. Now, the UK is providing him with those long-range missiles, and we are already seeing some potential fallout from all of that. We've also got a new report about just how far back the problems with Dianne Feinstein go, and just how widespread the knowledge of this was on Capitol Hill and among journalists. I mean, you really can't make it up. You've got Jon Stewart weighing in on the big Trump town hall controversy debate. Big piece that I missed last week, so I'm excited to talk about that as well. So lots to get to this morning. But before we do any of that, we are very, very excited because we are getting super close to having a new set in here.
That's right, everybody. The set is officially in production, fabrication. We have seen the warehouse photos. We are clearing out space here. We've got timelines and work contracts and all of that stuff. So if you guys can help us out with the production of that new set, we'd deeply appreciate it. The biggest expense ever in the history of Breaking Points, and all of you really are a part of it. So as we said, any monthly, yearly, or lifetime members who sign up are especially helping us in our financial hour, and we are so excited to debut all of it to you. It really is like a level up in terms of what we're going to be able to offer everyone for the incoming 2024 election.
Yes, that is right. Very excited about all of that.
So breakingpoints.com if you are able. Let's start, speaking of that 2024 election and all of the fun plans, not only in the studio that we've been cooking up, I think you guys are really going to enjoy some of the things that we're going to be able to offer you, is Ron DeSantis. And DeSantis, for the first time in a long time, as you alluded to, had a pretty good news cycle for himself in Iowa. He visited Iowa officially under not a pretense of running for president, but it's pretty obvious what exactly is going on here. And he had especially some good moments on the trail where he was able to speak to multiple events and even show up Trump in the face of a cancellation. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thank you for doing such a great job.
Some Republicans get into office and they basically act like potted plants. They don't want to lead. They worry about what the media is going to say about them. They just kind of hope to not have to make decisions until they're actually forced to do it. I said that's not what we're doing in Florida. We're going on offense in the state of Florida. I'm going to get out in front of issues. I'm going to be leading on issues. I don't care what the left says. I don't care what the media says. We are going to deliver big victories. And I'll tell you, when you're on offense, it's hard for them to keep up with you because they don't know what we're going to do next.
That is the core of the DeSantis pitch, is that Trump is about drama and I'm all about offense. I'm all about substance. I'm all about action. Now, obviously, we've been skeptical of that because, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of Republican base actually wants action, offense, and they like the drama. That said, there are people out there who do like it. And he did get a standing ovation at multiple of these events. But really, the big show up of Trump in Iowa, let's put this up there on the screen, is that after President Trump actually canceled a rally in Des Moines, citing, quote, possible dangerous weather, which, by the way, did not materialize, Ron DeSantis actually added an unscheduled stop in the very area that Trump had been scheduled to speak. Not only did he have a pit stop by basically embarrassing the former president by saying, I'm willing to come up whenever you said that you were going to, but then you bailed on this event, but he had spoken to 2 other events in Iowa while he was there. And this is just very classic retail politics, Krystal. This is one of those where, and part of why I actually am sad to lose Iowa from the Democratic side, because Barack Obama would never be president without it. He visited, all 99 counties in Iowa, and he spent basically a year on the ground. Iowa is what made him. DeSantis is offering his playbook where he sees his path to a nomination, if possible at all, through victories in the early states. Don't forget that Trump did not win Iowa. He only got 3rd place to Marco Rubio and to Ted Cruz before he eventually won the New Hampshire primary. So if DeSantis could have a victory in the Iowa caucuses over Trump, it would obviously just be a titanic media event. And more importantly, I think it would give permission to other Republicans to vote for him because they're like, oh, well, maybe he actually could win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been skeptical of Ron DeSantis for a long time, including when he was riding high, when some of the polls showed him beating Trump, because we always had this question mark of, okay, but how's he going to handle the national spotlight? Okay, what is his actual case against Trump? And we also had seen with the Mar-a-Lago raid the way that when Trump is under fire from the justice system or the liberal media or anyone else, the way the base always rallies back to him. So we've long been skeptical. But I think if you're going to make the best case that you can for Ron DeSantis, you would say, okay, he's placing a bet on people. They may still like Trump, but they are kind of tired of the chaos and they're ready to move on. That's the bet that he's placing. The one thing that I think he has in his corner right now is, the media doesn't really want the primary to be over before it's ever began because that's less interesting for them. So the fact that they took this little one-upsmanship that he was able to have in Iowa and turned it into a whole national story, I think indicates that they do want to kind of root for him in a way just so that they have an interesting, theoretically competitive primary on the Republican side to cover, since they've already decided that they're going to just pretend the Democratic primary is not interesting for them at all. So he's got that going for him. And in a way, his path that he has mapped out in his mind and that consultants are leaking to the press now is kind of similar to the Barack Obama bet,
Very much.
which is that, okay, sure, the polls are what they are before people start voting. But if we can show some strength in these early states, and by the way, we think some of these early states are particularly good for us, then maybe that flips things, maybe that changes the whole game and we get a head full of steam. These other contenders, the Nikki Haley's, the Tim Scotts, the whoever's, they drop out, they coalesce, and that's our shot. And you can see he's placing a big bet on that. Go ahead and put this up on the screen from Politico. He's rolling out a major slate of Iowa endorsements. A huge roster here, including more than half a dozen party leaders, state Senate president, Senate Majority Whip, Assistant House Majority Leader, House Majority Leader, House Speaker pro tempore. Is that how you say it? Pro tempore?
Pro tempore.
Pro tempore. There we go. House Majority Whip, Assistant Majority Leader, et cetera, et cetera. So very impressive state level roster. And the other thing I would say is while DeSantis getting one over on Trump in this, one Trump cancels the rally and DeSantis shows up, is this going to move the polls from a national perspective? No, but Iowa is different. And people there locally do pay attention to these sorts of things. Retail politics and the grassroots do matter. So if he's able to show more dexterity there and more attention to the state, yeah, maybe that does pay off.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like these types of endorsements and all of that were dismissed very early on by the Hillary campaign around Obama, and they didn't end up mattering. And a lot of people also forget this. Ted Cruz poured an enormous amount of resources into Iowa. Jeff Rowe, his campaign manager, who actually is now currently running the Never Back Down super PAC backing Ron DeSantis. Before that, ran the Glenn Youngkin campaign, is famously established like Cruz camps and poured all of this data and all of this into winning the Iowa caucus. It still is probably the coup de grace of the entire Ted Cruz campaign from 2016. Well, he's got Iowa veterans in his camp who are backing him. They know how to play this game. Iowan famously, especially Republican voters there, they are not the mean Republican voter, as evidenced by the fact that they voted for Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, whereas in most of the other primaries, Trump not only won, but he won big. So I think that, given the unique dynamics of the state, given the fact that they really do like to take their time, like get to know their politicians, if Trump does take them for granted, which it's very possible that he certainly could, if DeSantis is going to go all in on the state, he could face a problem. At the same time, what did I just say? He lost Iowa the first time, it just didn't matter.
Yeah.
He still won New Hampshire, and he still won Super Tuesday, and he became the nominee very quickly after.
Right. Well, that's the difference is the reason it worked out for Barack Obama is very specific to the Democratic side, which is that you had a lot of black voters in South Carolina who wanted to be with him, but didn't think that he had the ability to overcome the Clinton machine. Right. And once he demonstrated, look, I can get these white folks in Iowa to vote for me, then polls flipped dramatically, specifically among black voters in South Carolina. There are very few black voters that vote in the Republican primaries, and there isn't that same dynamic that's obvious to see, at least in terms of the Republican primary. So that's why, I continue to be skeptical here. But it was definitely a good, much better news cycle for him. He was certainly well received in the state of Iowa. I don't think there's any doubt that the Republican base overall has a lot of positive feelings towards him. They like him. If Trump wasn't there, I think he would be, the odds-on favorite, no doubt about it. But I still continue to believe that it's not going to be enough to be the Trump alternative without making some sort of affirmative case that really lands with the Republican base against Trump, or somehow Trump disappearing from the scene or completely melting down, of which we just see no sign.
Yeah, let's put the last one up there on the screen, please, because what they show here is that they canceled the outdoor rally in Des Moines, but something that Ron DeSantis actually said on Saturday really is what resonated with a lot of people on the ground. He said that the Republicans must, quote, reject a culture of losing and embrace a positive vision for the future if they want to win in 2024. Quote, both Florida and Iowa show strong leadership and a bold agenda can defeat the left in this country. There's no substitute for victory. We must reject the culture of losing that's infected our party in recent years. The time for excuses is over. We've got to demonstrate the courage to lead and the strength to win. Now, look, on his merits, I think he's right. I think that's a great pitch for maybe somebody like me. But all the evidence that we have, Krystal, this message basically only really resonates with college-educated Republicans, of which there are a lot in Iowa, but of which nationally there are actually not a lot whenever it comes to the Republican base. Working-class voters love Trump. Working-class voters, specifically who are new to the Republican Party, Trump-ish style voters, especially love Trump. But then the more traditional Mitt Romney-type Republicans, they like Trump. They have affection for Trump. They're willing to entertain more candidates. But unfortunately for DeSantis and for really anybody who's making their bet on that group, they really just, they're outnumbered almost dramatically by non-college educated white voters in the Republican Party. So look, once again, we could be totally wrong. It's very possible that a DeSantis Iowa victory, if it were to materialize, would eventually give people permission in New Hampshire and in South Carolina and in Florida. Actually, Florida will be the real test, whether DeSantis can win in his own home state against Trump. That's basically the whole ball game. It's why Marco Rubio dropped out in 2016. It's why Ted Cruz was able to stay in the race, because he did win the Texas primary. It's why John Kasich was able to win the Ohio primary. You have a case for doing that. So a lot of it is also road to Florida from where it all starts in Iowa.
DeSantis is making an intellectual case to the Republican base. He bet on, I'm going to have this, policy rollout. That's why he wanted to wait until after the Florida legislative session was finished before he jumped into the presidential race. And that lands with some slice of the Republican base. There's no doubt about it. The Trump pitch is much more visceral, and today that visceral pitch is winning the day. Will that change over time? I sort of doubt it, because I think the landscape as we move forward is just going to continue to be, what's going to happen in the documents probe, what's going to happen with the, Georgia Fulton County probe, what's happening with the special counsel, and all of those things are going to continue to dominate the news. And I think you saw in that CNN town hall, the way the base feels about anything, whether it has merit or not, that any sort of attack on Trump, as far as the Republican base goes, this is different from the general electorate, but in terms of the Republican base, it only makes Trump stronger. So I don't see that dynamic really stopping.
Yeah, I don't really see it changing or stopping either. But listen, who knows? Could be wrong. And at the very least, it'll be interesting to cover.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now. And Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.